One of the big names that I think would have been tossed around not that long ago is the coach for the Texas A&M Aggies, and Mike
Yeah.
Elko, one of the hottest commodities before he signed his extension with the team. Of course, he led his team now to the college football playoff. When you saw the results on Sunday and you saw the matchup on Sunday, considering all the consternation that happened before it with Notre Dame and Miami, number one, how did it land for you, your guys, and the fan base there in College Station?
Well, at least in Aggieland, it's good that they locked down Mike Elko for a considerable amount of time
Yeah.
now. And they did it when realistically the Aggies were winning. They hadn't dropped a game yet. But I felt like this is exactly where most Texas A&M fans thought they would be,
Mm-hmm.
and Texas A&M in general. They were ranked seventh. They thought they were probably going to be seventh. It was just a matter of who do they play. And obviously, we've heard a lot from Notre Dame's athletic director. We've heard a lot from Notre Dame opting out of a bowl game, getting fined for that subsequently. So I just think not many people expected Miami to be the opponent on the other side. A lot of us were expecting a rematch of that regular season game in
Mm-hmm.
South Bend, except this time it would be at Kyle Field. But I still think you talk about two brands like Texas A&M and Miami. Uh, it's going to be a pretty good game on the 20th.
Yeah.
When you compare these two teams, what sticks out to you the most?
I think probably the offenses when they're
Yeah.
on is what really sticks out to me, and you see it right here. I mean, talk about perfect timing. Just really two high-powered offenses, but with the Aggies, it's the defensive component that draws a lot of eyes. And Cassius Howell actually winning the SEC Defensive Player of the Year today. That just
Mm-hmm.
dropped, so we'll throw that in the show today. But one of the best pass rushers in not only the SEC but the nation.
Right.
Can he get to the quarterback? I think that's probably going to be the biggest point of emphasis in this game is putting pressure on Miami's offensive line and whether they can get through. And if they can, I think Texas A&M's got a really good shot to face Ohio State in that Cotton Bowl. But it pans out really well for the Aggies. You get basically two home games
Yes.
if you're in the first two rounds of the college football playoff, one at your actual home and then another maybe in your home away from home in Arlington. And I mean, from a coverage standpoint, it also works out pretty well for us too.
Right, absolutely. Less
Yeah,
distance there on the road.
exactly.
From an actual game planning, game point standpoint, this is a team for the first 10 weeks of the season. I think a lot of people were kind of holding their breath. Okay, maybe this is the week where we see the drop off. We never saw it throughout the
Yeah,
first maybe 9, 10 games. And then, of course, the South Carolina game happens. Obviously the Aggies win the game, but
yeah.
it takes what it takes there in the second half. Take the Stanford game out, then you have Texas there to end off the season. Given the results of two of the last three games, is there any concern for this team as they move into the college football playoff against a red hot Miami team?
Yeah, I think people have every right to be concerned maybe when you lay it out like that, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have the past three games, and really the only one that you played particularly well in throughout the entire game was against Samford. So I think that's maybe cause for concern, but also they've had 2 weeks to really 3 weeks to stew before they play Miami on that Texas loss. And I think they've been trying to put that in the past and really not letting it weigh them down. We heard from Coach Elko right after the selection, and everybody in that locker room is just excited to be playing back at Kyle Field, have the 12th man behind them, and welcome Miami for the first time I think in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time they welcomed Miami into Kyle Field, they took them down. So I think that's maybe cause for celebration, at least from a head-to-head perspective.
You talked about that Texas game there. Are you concerned that the layoff is going to be a little bit too much? Because I believe it's going to be 22 games in between when that Texas game was played and when the first round kicks off there at Kyle Field.
Yeah, that's always the tricky question with but also you have that same component with Ohio State in the top four seeds.
Right.
How long are they taking off? And Kurt Signetti with Indiana said, I got all this time to prepare my guys to go play in the college football playoff. I think that sometimes bodes well, and for A&M, injury-wise, I think particularly it's helping them. They're slated to get Le'Veon Moss back Mike Elko said he looks great. That's their starting running back through and through. And when he's healthy, this run game looks a heck of a lot more explosive than it does without him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something they particularly were missing against Texas, was something to take the safeties from dropping back and taking out Marcel Reed's game plan. And now maybe if they can get that run game going, that takes away that component entirely and lets Marcel Reed go to his playmakers, which Casey Concepcion just won the most versatile playmaker in all of college football, that award. So, another piece of content we're running today. But they got playmakers all across the board, and I think if they game plan it correctly, they can do that. But also that Texas game really showed a lot of people what these weaknesses might be for Texas A&M. And I think Miami's probably going to try to exploit some of that as well.
For sure. The Texas A&M defense, I find it's going to be really interesting the way they're tested, because if you were to make a Heisman Trophy preseason list, and I didn't know where they fell on the odds, but you'd have some semblance of Arch Manning, maybe Lenora Sellers somewhere down in the top 5, top 10, somewhere in there, and then maybe Carson Beck as far as top 10 guys go. Those are 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks they would have played. Carson Beck coming up in this matchup. What does his defense have to do to be able to maybe slow him down? And it's kind of interesting that all his time at Georgia, he never did cross against the Aggies.
Yeah, that is kind of random. They haven't played the Georgia Bulldogs that often in recent memory, and I think it might just happen to be where they are positioned in the conference, in the different sides of the conference. But yeah, I think he's another talent that they got a game plan for. And like you said, kind of in that Heisman race at the beginning of the season, also maybe midway through the season, and then Miami dropping off after a couple losses, and probably his Heisman hope races with that as well. So I think they just got to play actually very similar to Arch Manning, take away those throws, force him to have to beat them. And I think that's what they did with Jackson Arnold. I think that's kind of what they did with Arch Manning, but Arch Manning used his legs to really open up the passing game. And I think that's something they can't let happen in this game, because if they do, it's going to be a very similar result to that Lone Star Showdown.
No doubt. We got a chance to hear from Coach Mike Elko on making the college football playoff.
Yeah, no, not really. I think obviously there was excitement yesterday to sit in the watch party and see our name go up on the screen, and that's not, that moment's not lost on the team or on me, but we have aspirations to do a lot more than just sit in a room and see our name get put on a screen. And so I think very quickly it shifted to now we have an opponent, we have a focus. I think you could feel the energy lift. We kind of went right out of there into a team meeting and to get to work on kind of where this thing was going. And so it's obviously it's the first step is getting in, but I think we want to try to do a little bit more than that.
With quarterback Marcel Reed, there's been some concerns, not huge ones, because he's always been able to bounce back from an injury standpoint. Where does he stand right now, and how will he use these next about 3 weeks to get himself ready for that big matchup?
I think he should be a full go, 100% for this matchup. And like we mentioned before, the extra rest has definitely helped that cause. He looked fine after going down in that injury against Texas, and really immediately was testing out that knee to make sure that he was good to go. But I don't think anybody could take him off the field in that kind of game. I think this time they need him to be a contender in this college football playoff. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to let anything at this point, it's win or go home. And in this case, they are home, but they would still like to win and keep that train going.
Parker, I know we threw you on and got your real life takes there on Sharon Moore as that news was just breaking. Thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus on Texas A&M and Michigan football.
Yeah, of course. Just do it all.
Absolutely. Parker Rehm joining us. And by the way, he broke some SEC news because I saw the email come through, but I did not know those individual winners. So shout out to Parker Rehm for that. Absolutely.